Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of Musical Musings, airing every Wednesday at 1 p.m. This program is broadcast from Rajamachan University of Technology, Pranikon, and I will be bringing it to you in two parts. For the first part, I will be introducing an artist and a song to you. We will discuss a little bit about the artist, and then we will discuss a little bit about the song, some of its background, as well as its main themes, like what it's all about. Then, we will listen to the song, and in the second half of the program, we will analyze the lyrics, looking especially at difficult vocabulary, slang, idioms, anything that may be hard to understand. Okay, let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone. I'm Gary Gray, and I'm your host for Musical Musings. I'm an American English teacher here at Rajamachan University of Technology, Pranikon. I have been teaching here for about 8.5 years, and I do like to sometimes incorporate music into my classroom. It's a good way to learn things that you may not learn in a textbook, slang words or idioms, things like that. So, I will sometimes use music in my classroom, and that's why I am here hosting this program in Thailand in English about music. So for today's episode of Musical Musings, we are going to be doing the song Never Ending Story by Limahl. That name is spelled Limahl. And first, a little bit about that person, because that may seem like a very weird name. Limahl? There's nobody named Limahl. Okay. That is actually a stage name for this gentleman, and it is what we call an anagram. That is when you switch around the letters in a word. That is an anagram of his real last name. His name is Christopher Hamill. Hamill, H-A-M-I-L-L. So we just rearrange those letters, and it's L-I-M-A-H-L. So that's where he got Limahl from. An anagram of his last name. So Christopher Hamill. So he is a British artist, and he is the lead singer of the band, or was the lead singer. He is now a solo artist. He was the lead singer of the band Kajagoogoo. That's also a funny name, right? So Limahl of Kajagoogoo. So he was the lead singer of the band Kajagoogoo. He was born in 1958, and he's been active from 1976 all the way up until now. So if you do the math on that, 1976, now, of course, he was probably doing some music before then, but this is like when he's professionally active. So if you do the math on that, he started when he was about 18, so pretty much right away. Born in 1958, starts in 1976. So pretty much right away when he's an adult, he became a professional musician. And so, like I said, right now, especially a singer, because he was the lead singer of the band. So when I say musician, I'm not sure he plays an instrument. I'm not sure about that. I could be wrong if I said that he doesn't. I do know some lead singers of bands will sing and maybe play the guitar or even the keyboards in some cases. For example, in Styx, they kind of have multiple lead singers, but one of their lead singers for some of their songs is their keyboardist. So sometimes you'll get that. There's even one person, like with Genesis, where the drummer is sometimes the lead singer. So that's very interesting. So, yes, so sometimes the lead singers will play instruments. Sometimes they do not. Just last week, I believe it was, we did Ace Frehley, who, not the lead singer of KISS, but the person who is the lead singer of KISS, or was. I don't believe his name is Paul Stanley. I don't believe he plays an instrument. Most of the videos I've seen with him, he has not played an instrument. Even though I like KISS, I don't like them enough that I'm really that into them, so I don't know a lot about them. I mean, I know a little bit, the basic stuff, like with the paint and who is what character and all that sort of thing. But I believe he does not play an instrument. So I believe that's the case here with Limahl, is that he does not play an instrument. So when I say he became a musician, sometimes we think of musician as someone that plays an instrument. A singer is still really a musician. It's still music. Your instrument is your voice. So I would still say that's a professional musician. Okay, so again, he started at 18 years, roughly. If he didn't have his birthday yet, he still would have been 17, whatever. He started around 18 years old. And as I said, he was with Kajagoogoo, but is no longer. He is a solo artist now. And Kajagoogoo, interestingly, especially because of the song we're going to be doing, we're doing a type of song which generally these sorts of songs don't go along with the most popular bands usually. So in this case, this band, although Christopher Hamill, Limahl, did this solo, so it's hard to... maybe I shouldn't be tying the band in here, but he is the lead singer of the band. But this band, Kajagoogoo, actually was very popular. Briefly. They didn't have a lot of big hits, but they were briefly very popular. In fact, maybe we'll do them next week. I haven't decided who I'm doing for next week, for next week's episode, but they had a number one hit called Too Shy. Maybe we'll do that next week. But Limahl didn't have a lot of big hits as a solo artist. This one we're going to be doing today is his biggest one. But that doesn't mean he's been unsuccessful. He's had one other hit on what we call the Billboard charts in the U.S. He's had two more in the U.K., as well as the other two. The other two also charted in the UK, the one we're doing today, and that one other one that I mentioned that charted in the US. So he's had four that have gotten on the charts in the UK. This song we're doing today got fairly high up on the chart, so I'm certainly not saying that he hasn't been successful. He just hasn't been a huge artist. If you ask just a normal music fan, especially if you ask them in America. Maybe in England you'd have more luck because that's where he's from, and he's had more hits there. But if you go to America and you ask just a general music fan, who's Limahl? Most of them will have no idea who you're talking about. If they were big fans of 1980s music, well, they'll probably know Too Shy. They'll certainly know Too Shy. It was a number one hit if they're big fans of 1980s music. So they most certainly will at least have heard of Kajagoogoo. Kajagoogoo, again, didn't have a lot of big hits, so they may not be able to name all their hits, but they'll recognize the name. But will they know who the lead singer is, Limahl? I will bet you that about 95% of most music fans in America will not know who this is. And probably 80% of 1980s music fans won't know who this is. So, again, not super famous, but, again, successful. He's had enough hits that you call him a success. So I don't mean to make it sound like I'm saying bad things about him. I'm just saying he was not huge. He was never a really huge star. Okay, so the song of his we're doing, this song was pretty huge. It is the song Never Ending Story. Now, I mentioned before that this is the type of song that you usually don't get from a big artist or a big band, which is why it's kind of interesting that Kajagoogoo is sort of associated with this. Not really. It's not their song. It's Limahl's, but Limahl was the lead singer of Kajagoogoo. And what I mean by the type of song is that it was written for a movie. The name of the movie is The Never-Ending Story. The name of the movie has "the" in it. The song does not, really. The song is Never-Ending Story. The name of the movie is The Never-Ending Story. And it's a really, really famous movie. It's a really cute kids movie. It's a kids movie, but even some adults like it. I like the movie. It's fun. It's fun. It's kind of an adventure movie. So it's a fun movie. I haven't watched it in so long that I actually forget exactly what it's about. I know the boy is the main character, and he has a horse. I think the horse's name is Artax. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly. But I believe the boy is like sucked into this fantasy world through a book, I think, if I remember correctly. Or is Artax the big white thing that he flies around on? I don't know. I told you I don't really remember. But it is a really famous movie. It's just that it's so old and I haven't watched it in a long time. So this song actually got to number 17. And that's pretty amazing for a song from a movie. Now, I don't want to say it's unheard of. I looked up all the songs from television theme shows, which we've done one or two on here. Television theme shows that have actually made the charts, theme music from television shows, and songs from movies that have made the charts. And the list actually is quite long. It's not a tremendous list. For example, for TV shows, there are 44. And you might say, well, that's a lot. Yeah, they've been doing these charts, though, since the 1950s. So since TV came out, basically, they've been doing these charts. So that's 44 ever in the history of television. So it is not that common. It's not rare, because that's still like, what, more than one every other year? And you don't even get a whole bunch of new shows every year, because most shows run for several years. So it's not bad. It's not bad. But I will also say that most of them rank quite low. They'll get kind of low to middle, because some of them are weird to play on the radio. For example, we had a program called The Dukes of Hazzard. It's a fun song, but most TV show themes are a minute long. Something like that. So they would have to produce a full-length song, and so it changes the song. And so most of these songs don't get that high on the list. So number 17 is really high. Now, for movies, there are more songs that have made the list, that have made the charts. That makes sense, because even though there are fewer movies than there are television programs, there are a lot more songs in most movies. So the total number of songs each year from movies is probably more than from television programs. So more movie songs have made the Billboard charts. Now, I should be clear, we're talking about songs that were made for the movie that made the charts. So we're not talking about like Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You, which was featured in The Bodyguard. That song had come out long before the movie. Well, maybe not long before the movie, but quite a bit. That song was out before the movie. So that doesn't really count. That wasn't introduced for the movie. At least if my memory serves me correctly. I am one of few people who is not a Whitney Houston fan. So I try to stay away from that song as much as possible. But I'm pretty sure that movie came out well before the movie. So we're not talking. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sorry. Like I said, I try to avoid that song. But I would literally turn off the radio when it came on. So we're not talking about those type of songs. So we're just talking about songs that were made for the movie, like this song, Never Ending Story, was. And again, just like the TV themes, a lot of these did not rank that high. So there were a lot of them. So I don't want to make it sound like it's really rare, but to get this high, to get all the way up to number 17, like in the top 20, that's quite rare. There are not a lot of songs that have done that. So this song is kind of a big deal when it comes to movie songs being popular. This song was really popular. And again, it's called Never Ending Story. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the song. As always, those of you joining us on YouTube, because of copyright issues, we cannot show you the video. We will give you a link in the upper right-hand corner. You can click on that link to see the video. then after you're done with that, just click back here to get to the second part of our program. Everyone else, whether you're listening on streaming or the radio, obviously we are a radio station. We can play music, so you should be able to listen just fine. All right, so let's get to the song.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so that was The Never-Ending Story by Limahl, whose real name is Christopher Hamill. So that song, I didn't really talk about the theme of that song, because it's not really... most songs have a story they're trying to tell. There's not really a big story in here except about kind of this fantasy land, because it's the theme to a movie, so that's just what it's about. And as I explained a little bit about the movie, this young boy is... well, he's not that young, but fairly young. This young boy is kind of sucked into this fantasy world. I think he's probably a teenager, maybe a young teenager. I have no idea. He's somewhere between 10 and 15 in the movie. I don't know. But he's sucked into this fantasy world. And so that's kind of what this song is about. As you'll see from the words, it's really kind of about the story of the movie. So, for example, in the last verse, it's going to talk about not having any fear, because there's a time in the movie where this kid needs to be brave and he basically has to be like a man, because he has to do something. He has to. I don't even remember exactly, because, again, it's been so long. He has to, rescue a princess or do something that's going to rescue the princess. I don't know, something like that. He has to complete some mission. He has to do something big and important, like an adult job, and he's just a kid. So that's kind of what the song is about. It's really just telling the story of the movie. Okay? So let's go through these lyrics, and I will tell you that some of them are a little hard to understand, because, again, it's very fantasy. So it's very, we have clouds and stars, and, we have rainbows. It's a little, some of it's just a little kind of make-believe. So sometimes it's a little hard to understand. For example, right at the beginning. Turn around, look at what you see. In her face, the mirror of your dreams. What in the world does that mean? Right away, it's a little confusing. Okay, so turn around, look what you see. In her face, the mirror of your dreams. So, what does that really even mean? Well, if you're looking at something and it's the mirror of your dreams, it's basically you're seeing the dreams in her face. You're seeing your own dreams in her face. Now, who is her? I'm not sure, but I think, based on the next few lines, they may be referring just to the book as her. Remember I told you the boy is kind of sucked into a book? Because it then says, make believe I'm everywhere, hidden in the lines, written on the pages, is the answer to a never-ending story. Okay, so make believe I'm everywhere. Now, the way that line reads, you could interpret it two different ways. Make believe means to pretend. So is it saying pretend, like the pretend world is everywhere, make believe, comma, I'm everywhere? Or is it make believe I am everywhere? In other words, make believe that your dreams are, she in her face, your dreams, whatever, are everywhere. I'm honestly not sure what they mean there. I will tell you the way the lyrics are written out, there is no comma. I think that a comma belongs there. That's my best guess. I think it's saying that the make-believe world, the fantasy world, is everywhere. but it's hidden, right? Make believe I'm everywhere, hidden in the lines. The lines, we're talking about the book again, because it says written on the pages. So hidden in the lines, written on the pages, is the fantasy world. And it says it's the answer to a never-ending story. And so what do they mean there? The answer to a never-ending story? I think what we're talking about when we talk about the never-ending story is it's a never-ending story because it's something everyone has to go through. This is what this movie is what we call a coming-of-age story. And in other words, what that means when we talk about something being coming of age is it's really like someone maturing, someone growing up. And this may happen at different ages for different people. I've seen it with my students, and we're at university. In this movie, this kid's pretty young. Like I said, I think he's a teenager, but he may not even be quite that. He's a pretty young guy. He's basically just a boy in this movie. I mean, he's not too young. It's not like a 5-year-old kid. But he's like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, something like that. So but he matures because he has to do this, like I said, this thing that an adult would normally have to do. He has to complete this mission. And I think that's what they mean by a never-ending story, because this is always a story for, I don't want to say especially for men, that's very sexist, but, back in those days when this came out, it was a little less progressive and modern than it is now, so it was certainly starting to change. There was a lot of big feminist movement, but we still kind of had the thinking of, men have a certain role and women have a certain role. So, a boy becoming a man, that's kind of the coming-of-age idea. And that's always going on forever. It still is today, maybe less so because we don't get trapped in those kind of roles as much now, but there is still some of that. And it depends on the society you live in. In some countries, it's different than others. So that does still go on and probably will forever. Okay? So is the answer to the never-ending story. Okay, now we continue. Reach the stars, fly a fantasy, dream a dream, and what you see will be. Okay, so reach the stars, fly a fantasy, dream a dream. There's nothing confusing there. But that last line, okay? And what you see will be. So what they're saying is whatever you think about, whatever you're dreaming, it will be there. It will appear before you. It will occur. Now, obviously, in reality, that wouldn't be true. But I think what they're saying is that this story you see in the movie is probably in his imagination because he's dreaming this. This is his imagination, which kind of makes it a little less fun. I'd rather it not be. It's a good story. Like I said, it's a good movie. But I think that's what it's saying, okay? We continue on with this verse. Rhymes that keep their secrets will unfold behind the clouds, and there upon the rainbow is the answer to a never-ending story. Okay, this is where I told you it kind of gets really just fantastical, fantasy-like, because none of this makes a lot of sense. Rhymes that keep their secrets will unfold behind the clouds, and there upon the rainbow is the answer to the never-ending story. So it does, if you really think about it, it does make some sense, right? These rhymes, and I think what he means is a riddle more than a rhyme here, but we kind of associate riddles and rhymes. So a riddle is like a puzzle you have to solve, so that has secrets, right? And so it unfolds behind the clouds. In other words, it will reveal itself there. Like you have to go there. There upon the rainbow is the answer. So you have to go there. You have to take this fantasy journey. So I believe that's what this part of the verse is saying. It is a little bit, the language they use is a little bit flowery, we would call it, like very fantasy. But that's what it seems like it's saying. You have to go on this journey to find the answers. Okay, then we get a little bit of a not really a chorus, but they sing a little bit before we get to the last verse. So the last verse is, "Show no fear, for she may fade away. In your hands, the birth of a new day." And then it just repeats the second part of that previous verse. "Rhymes that keep their secrets will unfold behind the clouds, and there upon the rainbow is the answer to a never-ending story." So it's a pretty short song, actually, because that's it. It then repeats never-ending story several times, so it does go on for a little while, but that's it. So that verse, what does that mean? "Show no fear, for she may fade away. In your hands, the birth of a new day." Okay, so but again, a little weird what this means, but what I think this is saying is show no fear, and she will fade away. So what was she? Again, that was the mirror of your dreams. That's your dreams. Now, it's not saying your dreams will fade away in a bad way. It's saying, because it says it's a birth of a new day. It's saying this in a good way. In your hands, the birth of a new day. In other words, you've solved the mission if you show no fear. So do that journey. That's why it repeats the second part of that last verse. It's telling you to go on that journey. And it's kind of a journey of life, really, even though in the movie it's this big fantasy. It's this journey of life. Like I said, it's a coming-of-age story. That's what we call it. And that's like when a boy becomes a man. And there can be more than one event that are coming-of-age stories for people. There could be, you don't just suddenly change like that all the time. I mean, sometimes you do if it's a big enough event, if it's important enough. And so it really is a journey. And you see that in the movie, too, because even though he has a mission to complete, there are several problems he runs into along the way. It's not like it's just a smooth journey up until he solves the final problem. So there's lots of, of course there's going to be lots of trouble along the way. It's a movie. It's a story. But it kind of gets to my point about how there's not just one thing that makes you grow up. It's many things. And so, again, a coming-of-age story. So it's by the way, it's a really good movie. And I recommend that everyone watch it. I don't often show movies in my classroom because they take too long. They take an entire class period. But if I ever do, this might be one of them. Even though it's a children's movie, like I said, it's still kind of fun. So it's fun for adults to watch. And my students are mostly adults because I'm teaching at university. They're not old adults. They're 18, 19, 20. But they're adults. So I might show them this. All right, so that is Never-Ending Story. Again, the movie is called The Never-Ending Story, but the song is Never-Ending Story, and it's by Limahl. All right, so as always, when I end, I like to talk about other big songs by our artists. As I said, Limahl doesn't have a lot of big ones. He's only got one other that hit the charts in the U.S. It's called Only for Love. He did have two others that hit the charts in the UK, though, so if you like his music, you can maybe check those out as well. And those two are called Too Much Trouble and Love in Your Eyes. So those are the three songs of his that I would recommend. He doesn't have a big list of huge hits, but these were solid. These were solid hits. So if you like his music, worth checking out. Again, it's Only for Love, Too Much Trouble, and Love in Your Eyes. And once again, that artist is Limahl, Limahl. All right, so that's it. Never-Ending Story by Limahl. Thank you for joining us for today's Musical Musings program. Any young people out there, I would encourage you, if you're heading off to university in the next year or two, to check out our university here, Ratchamakan University of Technology, Pranikon. All right, please stay with us, and make sure you tune back in next week for another great song. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Musical